Welcome to a special Christmas episode of Bring Out Your Undead. For this episode, I've resurrected both Miaca and Casey so we can celebrate the holidays by digging through the book of Vecna, Eve of Ruin.
This episode on the It's a Mimic channel is going to look specifically at two undead creatures from the world of Krynn, which is in Dragonlance. Vecna, Eve of Ruin, jumps around the multiverse a lot, so you're going to run into both of these baddies.
But before we rip into the meat of this episode, let me ask you a question. What would you get your zombie pal for Christmas?
I don't even know what I would get a zombie for Christmas. Like a full body that it can consume? I don't know. Like does it like special smoked meats, or is it just like
I always like getting people, this is going to sound hilarious. I always like getting people consumables, because then, if they don't love it, it's gone. Like chocolates, candles, wine, preserves. And so for them, obviously my first thing was, blood infused wine, or a port that's made from grapes and a little bit of blood.
I'm thinking chocolate covered brain pieces. That's what I'm like.
Right? Yeah. Just add a little bit of festive to it.
Y'all are so nice, because I was gonna wrap it in barbed wire so it could protect me against the other zombies. You know how in The Walking Dead, Michonne had them on leashes or whatever, and they kind of protected her. I'm thinking of, how can I protect myself? I have this zombie guy. It says pal, but I don't see it as my pal. I'm gonna use it to protect.
Big is hard. No.
No.
Why would I have that in my house?
There you go. That's how I see it. I don't.
So you would embellish your protector zombie from yourself, but also it will then stop other zombies. So add fancier barbed wire, or
I feel like if I have a zombie around me, the apocalypse has happened, and
you've been body swapped. Yeah.
Yeah.
We always have that conversation of if you see me do this, it means I've been body swapped. It's because I would never do that. Having a zombie in the household is Miaca's. Oh, Atlanta. All right, well, we can dive right into these. Again, we're going to go over two of the beautiful undead monsters in this Vecna book. We did an episode where Adam and I flipped through the book to introduce folks to it. So if you guys want to check out what the Eye of Vecna, Eve of Ruin book is about, definitely go check out that episode. We talk about a lot of spoilers in that episode. There might be some spoilies in this one too, so if you haven't read the book, I would do so, but listen in and have some fun. So to start, I'm going to talk about the Black Rose Bearer, which is pretty neato. To describe them, they are a rotting corpse that was animated specifically by necromancers on Krynn to serve basically as guards. Visually, they look like old dead priests. It's the only way I can describe it, because they're very robed-like, that carry what looks like a lantern, but it's actually a black rose inside of a glass case. Think Beauty and the Beast with a black rose on a chain that it just carries around like a lantern. Don't touch it, though. If you touch the rose, these creatures will attack with aggression and with absolutely no calm. It will fight you until you die. Otherwise, they are actually written to be very slow and sluggish and very zombie-like. So again, as most undead are. So they're very rules is written, slow, sluggish, lethargic, until you touch the rose. And if you touch the rose or damage it or hurt its precious, it gets really pissed off.
I am intrigued.
Yeah.
So rose.
I'm just gonna smack it out of its hand. Put the rose down.
Yeah.
The cool thing is that this black rose is actually an homage to Lord Soth, who is the most powerful and feared Death Knight on Krynn, who ruled over the Order of the Rose. So that's the whole round circle thing. So you can probably find some nice inspiration in the fact that maybe these folks are risen dead knights of the order or what have you, because that black rose is an homage directly to Lord Soth. Stats-wise, they are actually quite simple. A medium undead creature that is neutral evil, coming in at a CR of 6. Their only positive stats are in strength, which is +3, and a con at +4, which is hilarious, because again, if you look at them, they're very spindly and very small and thin looking, but their highest stats are strength and constitution.
So if they come at you, it's going to be awful.
It's gonna be a hard time for you. Yes. So they have the same damage immunities as regular undead. So for those who have listened to our episodes for many times, you already know, and we go over this quite a bit. But just as a quick reminder for the first time, they're immune to poisons, being poisoned, being charmed, exhausted, and frightened. So that's just kind of like a thing that comes with being undead. They understand the languages they knew in life, but they can't speak. So it can't tell you not to touch its rose. So don't touch its rose. Basically, they have a basic slam attack that they can do twice, which is the only attack they really have. Except stats-wise, I'm going to read it because it comes in handy when I talk about one of their abilities. So for the slam, it's a melee attack that's a +6 to hit with a 2d8 plus 3 bludgeoning damage plus 2d10 necrotic damage. So that's a pretty hefty hit, and they can do it twice. So that being said, the most interesting thing about them is that they have Berserk. So remember how I said they get mad when you touch its rose? Well, this is stats-wise what that is. So whenever the bearer takes damage or makes a dex or saving throw for any reason at all, you roll a 6-sided dice, and if you roll a 5 or a 6, they go berserk. So they go insane. This gives them the advantage on it gives them advantage on every attack roll they do. They can use dash as a bonus action and must attack the closest creature. So once in berserk, it can't unberserk itself until whatever hurt it is destroyed, or their creator gives them a new pristine rose. Rules as written. Give it a new rose, and it's happy as a clam. But damage-wise, because when I was first reading them, they're a CR6, which I thought was pretty high for something that's so fragile looking, because they only have an AC of 11, so they're super easy to hit. And then they've got a hit point pool of about 110. So I'm like, that sounds really easy to kill. However, if you hit it once and you get it in berserk mode, you're taking, on average, about, so what is 22 times 2, so you're taking almost 44 on average damage per round if you berserk this thing, and it has advantage on those attacks. So it's most likely going to land. So
yeah, and if you try and get away, like dash away and just risk the opportunity attack, it will just get at you the next time because it can dash
as a bonus action. Yeah, it's like, fuck you for trying to run away. I mean, its speed is only 20, which is like, again, like indicative to the fact that they're quite slow. But even if you run away 30 feet, it's going to dash 20 right away and then get to you on the next turn. Like, so
you're getting into it follows territory where no matter how fast you run or far you go, it's just still there lumbering behind you.
Miaca, did you watch? Eventually. Did you watch It Follows, Miaca? I can't remember if Adam made you watch that one.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm shocked you did. Well, I'm not shocked Adam made you watch it, but did you?
Yeah, it's that one scene with the big tall guy peering into the door that I absolutely hate.
Yeah, that is, I think, the scene that gets. It's like, okay, well,
yeah, I'm like too
nightmares.
Yeah, there's something for me. It's something about that, like the tall, lanky thing going through the tiny door. That always freaks me out. I don't know how to describe why that freaks me out. It just does.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's raise some dice and let's talk inspiration, ladies.
Oh boy. 10.
16. 3. Okay, I got a 16, so I'll go first here. So let's talk roleplay first. I like the idea that you can tie them back to Lord Soth in terms of the fact that they could potentially be old risen priests or priestesses or even old paladins that followed Lord Soth within the Order of the Rose, and their whole meaning for life was to protect Lord Soth, and then all of a sudden this is where they've ended up, right? So I would play a one-shot in terms of you have almost like an order of the Black Rose bearers where they have all compiled into one space. Like, let's say a large battle happened, a bunch of them died. They were all risen by this one necromancer that then is like, these are my little army that I have, and that they're raising their own little army, and you have to fight these instead of like your classic zombie, right? So but I think I would only want to do it as a one shot because it has a very particular storyline that has to be followed, or like a random encounter if you want to introduce folks to the whole backstory of Lord Soth and like all those kinds of things. It would be a fun little like one shot battle to do almost with these. So I also feel like it'd be fun, like minefield to have to walk through and not touch one of them accidentally in terms of like, don't hit it. Like it, to me, it sounds like it's not going to want to attack you until you knock its rose. So this also screams like, the Chamber of Secrets or whatever from Aladdin, where you're wandering through hundreds of these things that are really close together, and you just have to not touch one of the roses, because if you do, they will all go into berserk immediately. Like,
Yep.
And I think we have popped off, as Megan would say, on Lord Soth. I think on a few episodes.
Yeah.
An episode with the boys, and then the ladies took a stab at Lord Soth. There's some like ripe content if you want to build out something there. So
Yeah.
I love that idea, Megan.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mind went to either you have touched the forbidden treasure, and so now, you know, Aladdin style, you are so screwed and you need to just try and escape, and there's like a domino effect. I also I was inspired by like the Harry Potter and like Gringotts, and like where they go into that one room where if you touch something, it multiplies, and then the room just gets full of shit and they're trying to escape, and it ends up being chaos. But like something like that, where they need to get to the back protected item, and it's surrounded by these, and it's literally impossible to get to it without touching one of these rose lanterns. And so it's just like, you can try, but ultimately all like chaos is going to break loose. So it could be, you could throw them into one of those where it's a trap that ultimately has to be set off in order to achieve what you're trying to do in that one scenario.
Absolutely. What about you, Miaca?
I'm thinking of like some type of like quest. So I would use this creature on a group of just new players to D&D, and maybe I would give one of my players some type of prophecy about retrieving a black rose to help fulfill some type of prophecy, and then having them come across this thing walking around with a black rose, like thinking that it's just the zombie, and for them, and of course, new players will be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go up and like hit it and take the rose," and then like all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
And so that's how I would play it.
I love the idea that one person in your party is carrying a black rose. Like,
yeah,
it's like their family emblem or something like that, and they just have like, they constantly carry a black rose on them, and the only way to quell like one of these that pops off is to give them their family crest rose, because it'll just like replace. And it's like, that would be a nice like moment of conscience for whatever character is like carrying that rose. And like then the exploration piece of like, and this ties directly into the exploration piece that's we're going to be talking about next, but is that black rose is going to be everywhere in terms of where you find them. So let's say you find them in a chapel, like they're going to have the symbol carved wherever they can, right? It's going to be on their armor. It's going to be on their robes. It's going to be on their coins. It's going to be all over the place, right? So if you are trying to, as a DM, give some folks hints that you're going to be coming up to one of these at some point, that is a good representation of every time you introduce like an area, there is a black rose somewhere. And then whoever's your scholar or your book reader can do like a history check, or your bard can do a bard can do a bard check to hear if it's heard a song about it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that's a great exploration piece, because the black rose is completely totally tied to them, right? So what about you, Casey, around exploration?
I think you could, like, I'm thinking about the body horror piece here, where like they look slow and they look potentially like easy to kill. And so I think you could like enhance that by adding like the sounds that they're make, like they're creaking as they walk and they're moving so slowly you can easily just like skirt around them if you can get around them. But then I think it would be really cool to hone in on when you ultimately touch the rose. It has like fast, jerky movements where like it reaches out and grabs on like the arm of the person within 5 feet that touched it, and it's like a death grip because its strength is high. And so suddenly this like this slow moving creature, at the second it triggers that berserk scenario, it just like is like fast in like fast movements. Yes, its speed doesn't go up, but it suddenly has those like fast attacks. And like I imagine its slam attack is fast. It's not like, you know, an ogre-ish slow like slam. It's like it's like a roundhouse punch to the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like suddenly it has tactic and skill when it's in berserk mode, and then everybody's terrified.
Yeah. I think that's very important to discern the visual difference between like its slow sluggishness and suddenly it's in berserk. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Because it is different, right? So to your point, Casey, like super quick movement suddenly. It like focuses, like it like narrows its like hollow eyes at you, and like it just like hones in, right? Because it's you that it's after. It doesn't give a shit about anybody else. It's whoever touched the rose that's gonna get it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's all.
And if you do try and attempt some sort of like grapple style attack of some kind, like to hold the person from getting away, it's got a higher strength, so it would be harder to get out of it. And like its eyes are the art is really good for it. It looks like they're like glowing reddish orange, and so that's where you could like do that. Like it's reddish orange glowing, like hollow sockets turn, and you can tell it's looking directly at you. Creepy.
Yeah. Y'all had really good ones. But I guess leaning into body horror, like I would just really suggest leaning into, like, I think on the picture it's a spider hanging from it or something.
Yeah, it's
like
gross.
really like lean into the dust on it, the spiders, like maybe dried blood, spider webs, especially for a bear that like hasn't been messed with in like hundreds and hundreds of years. And then like really lean into like, oh, this thing is like borderline skeletal, you know what I mean? Or skeletal.
But yeah, that's a great point though. The fact that like there's, because they don't move very fast. If they have nothing going on, they stand stagnant long enough that dust will settle. Spider webs and cobwebs would like that's a great description, Miaca. That's awesome. That makes sense.
And then go into the tactical thing that Casey was talking about.
It like dusts everything off. Just
like horrifying, like jeez. But yeah.
Oh man, I love it. It's so cool. All right, lastly, in terms of combat, I think we talked quite a bit about its tactics in terms of like, because that's a big piece of it, right? It doesn't want to fight you in my mind. And then when it does, you having those visual cues in terms of what those attacks and fights look like, right? Because it does have one thing I forgot to mention. It does have the undead fortitude, which we've talked about in a couple of other undead in the world. But basically, this is that thing where if it's reduced to 0 hit points, it's a Constitution saving throw. The DC is like DC of 5 plus whatever damage is taken, unless the damage is radiant, obviously. But on a successful save, the bearer drops to 1 hit point instead of dying. So it'll just drop down to 1 and keep fighting, right? So it's that fortitude and that resilience. So I think that would be something key in combat. The fact that, yes, it's going to fight until it dies, which means even if you deliver a killing blow as a DM, that would be an amazing thing to describe. Being like it slumps over and you think that it's over, but instead it grabs the sword that you stabbed it with and pulls it out and then keeps fighting, right? So having that moment, because like in combat, we don't really share numbers as DMs. I don't usually share them. If my guy dies, he dies. You know what I mean? So my players don't really know that it's hit 0 hit points until I say, okay, roll a Constitution save. And I roll a dice. They don't know why I roll the dice. And then describing what that looks like when it slumps over and almost dies, but gets back up, right? So what about you, make anything left on combat?
Honestly, no. I just have an image in my head of like what it looks like if the party runs away from it. Like it's just very like clumsy, I feel, and trying to like hunt you down and stuff like that. It's really good at the fighting part, but I don't think it's much of a tracker. And so it'll just be that little zombie guy that's like able to follow you around until like it kills you. or until you kill it. So just
Sorry,
very
Mark.
clumsy.
Yeah, like the lumbering oaf, just like
Yeah.
walking through the halls kind of thing. But
Mhm.
sorry, Casey, I skipped you. Did you have anything for combat?
Well, I went off about the roundhouse punches, so
Yeah.
It's true.
I was already like, I went from exploration and combat.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love both of it and both of those comments. I love it. I want to use it as a DM. I do not want to encounter it as a player.
Yeah. I do like the idea that if you, because they are supposed to guard something, right? But if it's not really gonna fight you until you like hurt its rose, like it might. But if you're just wandering through the caverns of some place and you come across one and someone knows, like, oh, that's an undead from the Order of the Black Rose, just don't touch its rose, walk around it and keep walking. But it's following you. It's 20 feet of speed, so it's not like keeping up with you. It's like slowly falling further and further behind as you keep traversing through these tunnels. But eventually you reach a room that you can't get through. Like there's a door you have to figure out a puzzle for or whatever. So as a DM, you can clock down how close this thing is until it gets back to them. Because it knows that you're going to get to a corridor that you can't pass through. And so it's just going to... This is an It Follows situation, you know?
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, my Lanta, I love it. All right, well, that is the Black Rose Bearer. So we can move on to our other one we're going to be talking about today.
Well, we've got two like amazing ones today. So I'm going to get into the Deathwolf. This is also in Vecna, Eve of Ruin. And it's like what you're imagining with the name. It's an undead werewolf. It's created by a necromancer reanimating a powerful werewolf using lunar powers for the ritual. Most commonly found in Krynn, they are associated with Lunitari, Krynn's red moon and god of neutral magic. The book notes that Lunitari is a trickster and master of illusions, and so the Deathwolf is imbued with illusion and trickery magic when they are created in this way. Though linked to Krynn, I think you can justify it being anywhere there is the presence of lycanthropy and necromancy. So, you know, if you like it, use it. So picture a werewolf, but with most of its skeleton exposed and like shadowy wisps surrounding it. It cannot shape change and has some very interesting abilities. So let's dig into that. They're like in the hybrid form forever. They are a medium undead and typically chaotic evil. With an AC of 15, as it typically only, is wearing the shredded remains of the clothes from its human form. It has a very high hit point average of 153, though, and a speed of 40 feet. It's going to catch you.
Yeah. The Rose Bear is just hobbling behind, but this thing is just like in your face.
Yeah. So they are a CR of 15. So keep that in mind when we talk about the stats and abilities. All average and well above average stats. The highest, not surprisingly, in strength at +5, and then con and charisma at +4. The lowest in intelligence, which is just +0, just average. Their saving throws are also very high in strength, dex, and charisma, and they are skilled in perception at +13 and stealth at +8. So they are going to see you pretty quickly, and you are not going to see them very quickly. They hold the classic werewolf damage immunities to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, and then Undead gives it immunity to poison. It is also immune to the charmed, exhausted, frightened, and poisoned conditions. So remember CR 15. So they have legendary resistances, 2 per day, and an ability called Moon's Grace, where if it falls, it descends at a rate of 60 feet per round and takes no fall damage.
It's like, why is that Moon Grace? You know, like I just don't understand where the name correlates with what's happening. Like,
Thank you, Megan. Thank you. That's when went through my head. I'm like, okay.
I don't know, like the stretch is like it's the rise and the fall of the moon, but I'm like, okay, like What? No, it's stupid. Just call it, I don't, because Featherfall is the one that I'm thinking of in terms like that makes sense to me. You're falling light as a feather. This one sounds like they're falling like a rock and they just hit the ground, but they're fine.
But they're fine. Yeah. They fall just the same. They just like 3-point land.
Yeah, I was
they
thinking
don't. They like land so ungracefully, but then they just stand up and they're fine.
And we call that Moon's Grace.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, well, in combat, it has a multi-attack with 1 bite and 2 claw attacks. The claw attack is pretty standard, slashing damage plus necrotic damage, because undead. But you want to avoid the bite. Not only will it do 2d8 plus 5 piercing plus 2d8 necrotic damage, the target must make a DC 16 wisdom save or be cursed and have disadvantage on saving throws against the frightened condition, and it lasts until remove curse or other magic is used.
Oh my god. That's like too much.
And that's just from the bite. Like it's just a melee attack, and then it has, well, I guess understandably, if you visualize that, if this horrific skeleton like werewolf bites down on like your shoulder, it's probably gonna be triggering some like long-term trauma there, and you might be pregnant.
Yeah.
Om nom nom.
All right, and so you'll recall I mentioned illusion and trickery. As an action, the Deathwolf can create a phantom of itself in the mind of a creature it can see within 60 feet. The target must make a DC 17 intelligence save or be frightened for a minute. Frightening is a theme here.
Mm-hmm.
While frightened, the phantom deals 6d6 psychic damage at the start of each of the target's turns, and the target can repeat the save at the end of each of its turns. Yeah, so that's a blow, and that's a 60-foot range. So it doesn't even, you don't even need to be the one it's like biting and clawing at. It can just like turn its head and stare at you and do this.
I feel like this version of like being frightened, like I see that in air quotes, is it fixes the problems that I have with being frightened. Because the only thing that like every other frightened condition just means that you have to move away from it at the beginning of your turn. This one is you were legitimately taking psychic damage because you were so scared of this thing.
Yeah.
And that makes a hell of a lot more sense to me than, oh, I just don't want to get closer, you know? Like
Yeah, and it's like in your brain. Like you can't run away from that, you know?
Yeah, hate that. Hate that a lot.
Finally, the Deathwolf can take up to 2 reactions per round, but only 1 per turn. It has 2 unique reactions. The first is imposing slash. When a creature within 5 feet of it makes an attack roll against it, the Deathwolf can force the creature to make a DC 17 wisdom saving throw or have disadvantage on the roll. Then, whether the attack hits or misses, it can make a claw attack against the target. So this is kind of like I feel like this is also a turning head stare at a creature that's attempting to attack it. And it's like, I dare you. And that fear, right? It's like, ah!
Never mind.
Yeah. And so you roll with disadvantage if you have to like, and a DC, like the DC is high at 17. So odds are like kind of good that you're probably gonna fail and then have to roll with disadvantage. So, all right, finally, the second reaction ability it has is phase step. So here's that illusion and trickery again. If it takes damage, the Deathwolf can teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space it can see that is in dim light or darkness. So remember, it had those like dark threads or wisps around it. So if you actually do end up hitting it, it can just poof and go and find a dark or dimly lit place to hide from you and be out of sight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it
And that's a
earned CR.
reaction.
Yeah, it earned CR 15. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, the art is really awesome on here. It just looks like especially the face. It just looks like a werewolf face, but the skin removed. And it's just, yeah, it's disgusting and scary.
Yeah, it looks smoky, and I feel like
Yeah.
it's got like, I don't know if they're not stink lines because they're not green, but he looks like he's smoky, like he just recently lit on fire, you know. All right, ladies, let's raise some dice and talk inspirations for these guys.
Oh, here we go. A 12. There
Look at
always has
you.
to be a 12.
There is 9 for
8.
me. All right, Casey, you're
I'll go
first.
First, okay.
First with a 12, my gal. All right, so in terms of role playing, what's a tip or trick or something along those lines that you have for folks?
So I feel like, well, I again was inspired by Harry Potter, I guess. Harry Potter is the theme for me today. How you're at some point you are going into some sort of forested area that is known to have like lycanthropes. And I'm thinking this could be a very terrifying reveal of what you thought was just a like gang of werewolves that typically was found in this forest has been like overtaken by a necromancer, and the necromancer has basically transformed all of the werewolves, unbeknownst by the people coming to find them, into Deathwolves. And so you're thinking you're just going to account a regular werewolf. And what comes out of the woodwork is these. And so it's only when you see them that it's like, wait a second, why is there no fur? Why are they not? And then, you know, the abilities, and then you realize that you are in the fight of your life. So I love that reveal of something evil has infested this area, and like this is an example of creatures who shouldn't be the way they are, but they have been transformed.
Yeah, I love how you compared it to the original, like just like a regular werewolf, like it's no big deal. So I looked it up. Werewolves are a CR3 in comparison to this is a CR15. So yeah, your group is getting ready to fight some regular werewolves, and they are unprepared, shall we say.
Yeah. And the fact that it is, it says like, it notes it's powerful werewolves that can be turned into this. So I love the idea of a necromancer, like maybe the pack, that's the word I was trying to think of. The pack of werewolves is say like 20 to 30 large. And that's just what's been known. And the necromancer does the ritual on all of them. And there's actually only like 2 that make it through the ritual because they are powerful enough to become the Deathwolf. So in the end, you think you're going to be fighting a very large amount of werewolves, but instead you're fighting 1 to 2 Deathwolves, which is just as awful.
Yeah, just as equally as frightening. Yeah. Also, like for me, in terms of like how I would role play these as a DM, in terms of like when my group would encounter them, I want to remind folks that they speak Common.
I forgot to mention their language.
Yeah, they speak Common. They have an intelligence of 0, so they're average intelligence, and they have a wisdom of +3. They will talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I just scared the shit out of Miaca just now.
It's like, you're not supposed to talk to me.
Yes,
but I think
because they were human at some point.
Yeah,
Oh
but
my God.
I just want to like point that out from a great, not only in a role playing, but also an exploration like piece is like, if you were expecting to encounter werewolves or just regular wolves, they won't talk to you. And all of a sudden this thing is just speaking in like a low monotoned, like very intelligent voice just at you. And it's just like, oh, this is not a regular werewolf. This is not a just regular wolf that looks a little smoky. This is a something different. I'm never gonna let go of the fact that they look like they're smoky. Like,
I know.
they're very wispy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that being said, Miaca, anything on your end for role playing?
Yeah, it would be thinking of another type of quest / adventure. I mean, like you go and help the village that's been plagued by something in the forest that it only happens at night, you know. They don't know what it is. You're party happens to be there at that point in time. They're like, we'll figure it out. We'll see what happens. We'll do some detective work. And then they come across this Deathwolf who can talk and hold a conversation apparently. And yeah, just really lean into that role playing aspect and then like try to kick its ass. That phantom Deathwolf thing, could it be like a sneak attack type of situation, do you think? Like before you even see this thing,
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
targets one of like your players, they fail the what role is it?
I think it's
It's a DC 17 intelligence. Yeah.
Like they happen to fail that saving throw and then you have one player just thinking they're going crazy.
Yeah.
Like I think that would be a cool sneak attack thing.
I also like a protection thing. I feel like if your group is hunting this thing and you're getting close to its lair or close to wherever it is, it's gonna see you before you see it. So it's gonna pop this out to scare the shit out of you, damage someone immediately, and have them go insane a little bit. And then they're gonna run back to the town and say that they saw a dark shadow, but they don't know what it was, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and that phase step reaction, like I imagine the stories from the village also would be like the villagers rallied and managed to like try and corner it, but then the second they were trying to like actually do the killing blow, it bounced out of and like disappeared, and they never found it, you know, like it has strategy to get away. Here I am still again jumping to combat. Anyway.
Hey man, we're all over the place.
I did a little bit too.
Hey man, it works for me. Yeah, I jumped from role playing right into exploration because I feel like they went together, you know what I mean? But I feel like that's the beauty of it. So, and I also think that seeing the shadow of it is also a piece of exploration too, right? Like that's the only thing people have seen is the shadow of it. They've never actually seen the Deathwolf itself. So they think that it is a phantom or a ghost or a demon or something that is just like haunting this town in Miaca's scenario, and just causing a ruckus, you know what I mean? But it is interesting because I'm trying to think of like what their motivation for terrorizing a town would be, other than just food and consumption, like, or would it be, I don't know, perhaps they're trying to like weasel someone away from the town so that they can kill them. I don't know. Like it's like trying to figure out why one of these would be.
Could be a village. It could have been a villager that became this.
Oh,
I know.
And
like a terrible accident and in some way became this from like a necromancer or, you know, something like that.
And it just wants its pals back. But everybody's afraid of him.
And he just gets angry.
Oh no.
I have an idea for loot now. Adam's gonna hate it, but
I love it. Well, that being said, then let's roll right into combat then. Casey, anything on your end for combat?
Well, just so many things. This would be so much fun as a DM to play because it's got that high movement speed. It's got some really cool abilities. But yeah, it's still just a werewolf with that bites and slashes its claws at you. The phantom Deathwolf is like the thing that just levels this up. I will say it has a recharge of 5 or 6, so it's not going to be able to do this constantly, but it is absolutely going to open with that. Like Miaca was talking about, like this is going to happen before you even know what you're dealing with. Like, and with that, like high perception and stealth, like, yeah, you may have to go several rounds before you even actually get eyes on this. And it's just, and like with the legendary resistance, even if you can't quite pinpoint what it is and you try and do some like AoE effects or you try and, you know, cast some spells on it, it can just succeed on the saving throws. Like it's just going to be relentless. And ultimately, I feel like 3/4 of your party is going to be frightened of it by the time you either run away or if you manage to defeat it. And I also see, I'm just going on. This thing is just like wild to me. I also think because it has some wisdom. And it can, and like, I think it's not going to let you kill it, you know? Like, I think it's going to instinctively flee. Like, it's going to use its reaction and bamf out of there and get away and regroup or whatever. Like, I think it's not really going to let you die or let you die.
Let itself die. Yeah.
Let itself die. Unless like it's like truly its final battle, like it's either destroy you or itself, like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless there's some kind of emotional drive behind wanting to destroy the thing that's in front of it. I agree. It's smart enough and it has high enough wisdom that it knows that when it's gonna die and it's gonna run as fast as it can. If like just to get out of there so it can't get killed, right? So bigger business to attend to, and that to that point, I think tracking one of these is going to be next to impossible. Like
yeah.
hunting one, it's going to be smart enough that it's going to lay fake tracks. It's going to have other wolves in the area so that you can't like. It probably has its own little pack of werewolves that follow it, like its own little cult going on.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, cults, man, always cults. Like we're talking about necromancy here. There's a cult somewhere. In fact, that might be a good reason. This was created by a cult, and they are now hell-bent to find the cult and take them down. And that is, and like the cult, of course, is probably infiltrated into multiple cities, and you don't know who they are, but the wolf knows them. And so that's the only reason it's visiting your town, is it's hunting down members of this cult that turned it into this thing.
Ooh.
There you go. Figured it out. We got there. I figured it out, but we got there. But what about you, Miaca? Tell me about your loot.
All right, so I'm thinking. So what if you come across this layer first and it's not home, and you can see like it has like its loot. It's just all the stuff it had when it was human, and you can see like they have like a picture of themselves or something of like it was like he was a family guy, you know. He was like present in the community, and now he's like this death wolf. So now it's all like, do we save him? He's kind of hot, right? Like I feel like we saved this guy, and like, you know, the werewolf aspect is playing on it too. I also think we also need to question, can he turn back into a human, or is he just a death wolf forever?
Yeah, like what kind of Beauty and the Beast situation are we working
It's like,
with
what
here?
can you do? You know?
Yeah. And the book specifically says that what is the exact way it says? Death wolves can't shapeshift, but they can create dangerous illusions. So I think once it's created, that is like it. However, if there's a will, there's a way, because one is your loved one. And so it's like, I will find a way to revert them and change this transformation.
Okay, I've got another storyline for you guys for this one, because I am now inspired by the Beauty and the Beast scenario that we have building here. So you come up to a town that is every once in a while just randomly sometimes being terrorized by a beast. They don't know what it is. You decide to go hunt it. There is a woman of the council who's following you around. You find out that her husband went missing and she's trying to find her husband and so on and so forth. So she decides to join you to be like, my husband's out there. I want to make sure he's safe. And then they end up killing this thing in the woods. And then they find its lair, go in, and she learns that it was actually her husband that was turned into a death wolf, because all of it, to your point, all of that loot that he's been collecting, like pictures of her, pictures of their kids, like his old clothing, his old armor, like all that stuff is there, and she realizes that the monster they killed was him.
Jeez, yeah.
The trauma.
I'm here for a sob sad story, like, you know.
Like, what do you do after that? It's like, ew.
Yeesh.
So we're gonna go.
Yikes.
I love that though. See, I feel like he's all wispy and smoky and stuff, but I feel like he could be a family man. He was a family man.
He was a family man.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The nature of packs, you know?
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
I've read that book, you know what I mean? Like it's somewhere.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right. So, on a scale of 1 to 10 weepy death knights, how would you rank these Dragonlance enemies as a part of the undead landscape in D&D 5th edition? So, Black Rose Bear.
I just find them. I would find them annoying. So I'm gonna, I'm gonna give them a 5.
Oh, that berserk is rough.
I think it does, like because of that berserk, it's a different kind of DM role play, and I think that would be fun for DMs to do. So that's why I'm not giving it a total. I don't like it. It's a 5 because I feel like it would be fun, but it's there. They exist for a very specific and particular reason that it would be hard to put them in anywhere. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
True.
yeah.
I am totally freaked out by the, once Berserk is triggered, the like jerky fast movement shit. So I'm gonna say a 6.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm thinking 7. I feel like it's the jerky movements thing. It's how it's like, it can kick your ass. So yeah,
Good.
7.
Mhm.
Yeah, actually, yeah, no, now that I think about it, the fact that when it like flips into Berserk mode and all of a sudden it is like the fucking Hulk.
Yeah. Like, it's fixed.
Yeah.
It's fixed. Oops. Yeah, it's fixed.
Now I want to like change the visual, like the aspect of it, that when it goes into Berserk, it does like the whole like montage of like its muscles like exploding like Popeye, like
And
Yeah.
like and suddenly it like doesn't care about its lantern anymore, so it just like slams the lantern down.
it's like, hey, it's not pristine anymore. I don't even want it.
Yeah.
You pissed me off.
Mhm.
This is every woman in life when their husband tells them to hurry up when they're putting their makeup on.
Yeah.
Don't rush me out the door.
There you go.
Or any child who's been working endlessly to pile 3 things together and it keeps like not quite working and they just go like throw the whole thing. Like, I'm done.
Forget it, Ben. I don't even want it. I don't want it anymore. Yeah. Oh Lord.
Okay. So the Deathwolf, guys.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 would write a smut novel.
Yeah. Yeah, I think our contributions to the inspiration have escalated it to the 10.
Yeah.
Exactly. 10.
I was
Yeah.
sitting at a 7 or 8 while we were talking, but then as we like elaborated on it, we're like, nah, we could write something
Yeah.
great with this. Yeah.
Yeah. A powerful being with a powerful story.
Add in some heartbreak and trauma, existential crisis. We're there. We're 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to live in the world where the Deathwolf and the Black Rose Bearer are best friends.
Yeah, they're together.
Yeah. That's the red rose that from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, exactly. Now, like it comes like it's like almost like we talked about these at the same time for a very specific
We
reason.
did. Yeah.
Oh Lord. All right. Well, now it's time to watch Scrooged, Nightmare Before Christmas, and Anna and the Apocalypse, because who doesn't love a little undead with their eggnog? If you'd like to discuss what you've heard here today, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and at r/It's a Mimic. For more episodes on monsters and other D&D topics, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Thanks for listening to this special episode of Bring Out Your Undead. If you'd like to support us, we have a donate button on our website, www.itsamimic.com, as well as a store and a Patreon. You can check out the show notes for details. Thanks again for listening to It's a Mimic, where you never know what you're gonna get. Like a romance story.
We love a romance story with the undead.
Miaca.
Leave it to Miaca to give us the romance, And then I'll just turn it into trauma. Like this is what we do, Miaca. This is what we do.
Yep. It was there. I couldn't let it go. Yeah,
we're here for you. We love it.
I love it so much.
Those were so good.
Oh.
I just scared the shit out of Miaca just now.